The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Be a movie. Yeah, we're gonna be a movie.
Starring everybody
And me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily. Be a movie. We can watch it all develop. Starring everybody.
And me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
And we are going to start right here. Hello, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Premier Podcast Triple Feature. And I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, I am joined by the one and only Chae Tate. How do you do, madam?
I am pretty damn good. How are you guys doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm happy you're here. Fresh off her most recent appearance here on Deadpool and Wolverine. You came back, Chae. You came back. You wouldn't run off as hard as we tried. And of course,
next time.
The understudy for Evan Bevins. Evan Bevins was called to duty. So Dorian Price put on his best Evan Bevins mask, and here he is filling in. Ladies and gentlemen, from Frankie Pictures, Dorian Price. How do you do, sir?
Not too bad. How we doing, boss?
Doing pretty good. You know, can I convince you to change the name of your production company? Can I convince you to take the very serious profession and business that you run and make a mockery of it for my amusement? And what I mean by that is, will you please change the name to Wonder Pictures so that we can say, if it's any good, it's a wonder?
We'll have to discuss that with the board of investors, but
Okay.
Take it under advisement.
That is one of the funniest black and white Looney Tunes gags ever. I Wonder Pictures, if any good, it's a wonder. I'm like, I need to use that somehow, but I brand all.
Make it your production company.
No, my company is Pantsless Productions, because you've got no pants in hell. So that's funny if you remember the Vince McMahon theme, by the way.
Sorry.
No chance, no pants.
Sorry, it took me a second.
That's all right.
Been a long day.
So we are talking comic book adaptations tonight, and so Evan Bevins and I we do a little podcast called Comic Stripped, where we take a look at a trade paperback or a graphic novel, and we read that book and we watch the movie, and then we compare and contrast them. So this was actually an idea that Alexis had come up with years and years ago, and I immediately took it from her and ran away. Then there I went skipping merrily through the periwinkles, and gave the idea, and then started doing them all with Evan Bevins. And so we've done a bunch of them. We did Cowboys and Aliens. We did I Kill Giants. We did The Losers. We did Two Guns. We did a bunch. And occasionally we kind of run out of stuff to do. So then we were like, all right, well, we still want to talk comic book movies to some degree or another. So let's, maybe put together some triple features. And I have been dying. This one was one of those where I think I just needed an excuse to talk about some movies that I either had seen before and felt like I wanted to talk about for 20 minutes or so, or ones I'd never seen before and I need an excuse to watch them. So tonight we're talking Tank Girl, we're talking Mystery Men, and The Rocketeer. We're going to start off with Tank Girl, and for those that don't know, Tank Girl is a 1995 American post-apocalyptic science fiction film directed by Rachel Talalay and written by Tedi Sarafian. Based on the British comic series created by Jamie Hewlett and Alan Martin, the film stars Laurie Petty of Orange is the New Black fame, Naomi Watts Ice-T of the gangster rapper, and Malcolm McDowell of all the movies he's a villain in. Set in the drought-ravaged Australia that isn't a Mad Max movie, years after a catastrophic impact event, it follows the anti-hero Tank Girl as she and Jet Girl and genetically modified super soldiers called the Rippers fight water and power, an oppressive corporation led by Kesslee, which is Malcolm McDowell. If you don't know who Rachel Talalay is, she has worked on such luminary projects as Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, where she was a director, Ghost in the Machine, the 1993 version, and A Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting. She also has worked on the following TV series, Band of Gold, Ally McBeal. She did a couple episodes. Dice, V-Dice? And so that was Andrew Dice Clay. Terminal City. She did the 2008 Flash Gordon. She's worked on Doctor Who. Dorian.
Oh no! Actually, you have to swing that at Chae. Chae is the reigning Whovian in the room.
She worked on the Greg Berlanti Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl. That explains a lot. Most recently, she did an episode of Doom Patrol, Superman and Lois, and the 2022 iteration of Quantum Leap. So, Chae, how familiar are you with Tank Girl?
I'm not super familiar. I was aware that there was a comic book. I've never read it. I watched the Tank Girl movie a while back. And to be completely honest, the plot for this movie is very hard to remember. My entire memory of this movie is basically a comic book.
Yeah.
I remember several of the stills and the scene where she's sitting on the couch and they ask her how much she was paid for something. And she goes, about $3.50.
Lori Petty has very funny delivery.
Yeah, it's the delivery in this is fantastic, and it's a very strange movie.
My memories, Dorian, of Tank Girl when it came out in 1995, and so that everyone knows just how old a fucker I actually am, that is my first or second year of college, depending on when in 1995. Okay? So while you guys were all running around your elementary schools and whatnot, I was in college going to hardcore shows and whatnot.
I wasn't born yet.
There we go.
I'm not born until 1997, so you guys got 2 years.
Welcome to Old Man Talks to Children About Movies.
Oh, I thought it was triple feature. I was lied to. I'm out of here.
So a couple of things. One, I used to confuse this movie with Sucker Punch, which is another one that's on my list of things to watch. Maybe when we do a Zack Snyder director focus.
I actually love that movie. And
do you?
Yeah, there are some, very quickly, if Tank Girl was made by someone who was like, I want to be depressing and emo, you'd get Sucker Punch.
Perfect. Hey, I want to remake Tank Girl, but sad. Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch.
So that was one thing too. I would see the posters and like the VHS. That's how old I am. I would see like the VHS of this all the time, and then eventually the DVD. And I kept thinking, is that Gwen Stefani? Was Gwen Stefani in that movie? I didn't know. I wouldn't know Lori Petty if I fell over her until I watched Orange Is the New Black. But every time I looked at that poster, I was just like, I feel like that's Gwen Stefani from No Doubt. And like an old man, that's just how I stayed. So imagine my surprise as I'm watching the cast and going, oh, that's not Gwen Stefani. Hey, I was this many years old when I learned that. I'd heard it's bizarre as fuck, and that Ice-T was in it, but Ice-T was dressed up as a dog. And I was
also Iggy Pop and Doug Jones.
Iggy Pop.
Doug Jones is. I'm sorry.
Iggy Pop was in there too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Poor Iggy Pop. I still feel bad for him for his scene with Tom Waits and coffee and cigarettes. You poor bastard.
Tom Waits is in this movie too.
Oh, is he really? What character is he?
Sorry, I got the cast list up. Give me just a second. Keep talking. I'll pop back in.
But those are my lasting memories of Tank Girl, and I never got a chance to watch it. I think there may have been periods of my film watching where I just avoided something that was going to be this weird, but I'm kind of revolving back into that mode again. I never read the comic book. I didn't know until I started reading Wikipedia pages for comic book adaptations that this even was a comic book. So, all right, what do you got for me, Dorian?
Quickly, I correct myself. Tom Waits was in Mystery Men. He is not in Tank Girl. Sorry, they were right.
Yeah, I was going to say he plays the mad scientist, doesn't he?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, they're so close together.
All right. So, what about you, my child? Tell me about your experience with Tank Girl.
Well, when my mommy and dad, I'm not going to do that the entire time. Good cue though. On like minute I do that, I just see this huge bottle of booze,
and this is when we drink.
Whenever the little fucking kid talks, take a drink.
Yeah.
No, I saw this with I was raised in theater and opera companies, and I hung out with the crew a lot. This was a movie that, especially being born in 1997, I should not have seen at the time because I think I saw it in like 2004. So, still in the single digits. I loved this movie at the time because I loved the smash cut between you'd have an actual scene and then boom, we're in the comic book frames and stuff like that. And it made the crew that were the people I was hanging out with that were backstage crew laugh their asses off because Laura Petty, I know the voice of, but I didn't until Orange is the New Black, didn't have really a face until Tank Girl. Well, actually, Tank Girl was first. But she was the voice of the villain Livewire on the Superman animated series.
Oh, okay.
So I knew the voice and was like, who the hell are you, discount Harley Quinn? No offense, Laura Petty. We love you. You're fantastic. Keep doing that thing you do. But no, I remember seeing this and it became one of those movies that you knew that when you got older and we're actually hanging with people that would drink, it's like, okay, this is the movie you put on for background noise when you're drunk. But it's also the movie to introduce people who are like not normal comic book fans of like Marvel, DC. This was the like, hey, this is a comic book movie. Bullshit, this is a comic book movie. Then you pull up your phone and go, got a comic book.
Yep.
So that's my connection with it. I enjoyed it because it was just so off the wall, and by then I already wanted to be a director, and I was like, you know what, this is all over the place, but you can tell for the most part everyone's having fun, including Malcolm McDowell. And the thing I'll end with was I swore for years that this movie Tank Girl was connected to Star Trek because. Because not a week earlier, I had finally seen Star Trek Generations, where Malcolm McDowell also plays the bad guy.
Yes.
And he kind of has the same kind of thing going with like the Nero collar and shit. Like, is this just like his brother or some shit like this? That's like, we don't have like it's Earth, but Earth has gone to hell, but Starfleet doesn't know about it. Like, I don't know. It's it connected so well with that. But again, I love Malcolm McDowell and I love movies that are off the wall, but you can tell everyone's having fun while they're making.
It's a very bizarre movie. It's definitely one of those movies I think about when what is the movie medium for but an exploration of your wildest imagination. And that for me is Tank Girl. So the plot basically is there's a drought, a comet hit the Earth, we're living in Mad Max times. The Lord Humongous of this movie is Water and Power, as controlled by Malcolm McDowell. And then you have Lori Petty and her group of misfit toys. And they control a water well. And Water and Power wants all the water, so they attack them, which puts Lori Petty on the run. And she runs and she runs and she finds a tank, which may or may not be sentient. And she runs into another girl, and she is Jet Girl. And they then run into the Rippers, who are not dogs as such. They are kangaroos crossed with men. They are mutants. That's what they are. Dirty, stinking mutants. And so between Tank Girl, Jet Girl, and the Rippers, they launch an assault on Water and Power, in which they win. Good wins the day, and Lobster. So let me go to you first, Chae. Before I give my thoughts on this movie, I want to hear from you guys. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to rewatch it since you offered to be on the show, or if it's been a while since you've seen it. But from your recollection, what did you think of this movie?
It has been a little while since I've watched this,
Mm.
but I do think that it's a really fun movie. I really love those weird, off the wall, and
Mhm.
not even necessarily comedy style movies, but those movies that bombard you so much with strange shit that you can't not laugh.
Yeah.
And this was definitely one of those movies. It's one of those that the plot line is not necessarily very important. Uh, it's the reason that all of the weird scenes exist. But it was all of the scenes, even just like as a little clip show, are a ton of fun. I really like the art style. I really loved the makeup for the kangaroo dog people.
Do
Um,
you? Please talk to me about that. Let's have a conversation. What do you like about it? It is so like obviously fake and weird. It's like I can't. I'm not for a minute, and I don't know how purposeful this was. That's why I'm laughing about it, because I don't know if it's just bad or if it was they were going out of their way to be bad for a reason. But they did not seem like men crossed with kangaroos so much as they seemed like men wearing kangaroo suits they bought at the Spirit Halloween.
it is, and it's very strange. It's very fake looking. But I think it might have been at least somewhat intentional. For me, it really reminds me of some of the more off the wall 80s horror movies, where they were doing these huge, like very, very vaudevillian, almost cabaret style makeup work.
Harryhausen, except it's not.
Yes, very Harryhausen. And I don't think that makeup was supposed to look real. I think it was supposed to look like bad graffiti of a kangaroo.
Okay.
Um,
The movie has
kangaroo fell down an elevator shaft. They brought him to a plastic surgeon, and they did their best.
yes.
The movie has a very specific kind of aesthetic. And it's weird because it's a blend of different things. It's a blend of like, it's supposed to be comic booky, but it's also supposed to be Mad Maxy, but it's also supposed to be surreal. It's a bizarre kind of kaleidoscope of different aesthetics, which is why I'm willing to go along with the fake looking kangaroo men, because especially Ice-T. Can we get the guy who wrote Let's Get Buck Naked and Fuck in the movies and dress him up as a kangaroo, a really fake looking kangaroo? Can we do that? This is America. Can we make that happen? And they did. And God bless Ice-T. They were like, "What? Could you just imagine? He's on set, and they're like, all right, so I'm this kangaroo guy. Do you need a voice from me? Do you need me to? What do you need me to do here?" They're like, "Be Ice-T, but you're a kangaroo."
Just be you, but kangaroo dude.
Yeah. And this is Ice-T every day going up to the set going, but I want to be an actor. I want to be on Law and Order. I want to do Death of a Salesman. Like, no, I need you to be OG Ice-T, but in a kangaroo suit.
He's like on the phone with Brad Pitt, and he's like, man, I'm trying to be an actor here. It's like, dude, it's okay. My first movie, I was like a leather clad looking S&M dude on a motorcycle. Trust me, this is just the first step. You get past this, you're fine.
So someday someone will let you act, Ice-T, and then they're going to put you in Surviving the Game, and then you'll be sorry. So anyway, let me shoot over to you, Dorian. What did you think of Tank Girl?
Tank Girl is one of those movies that is I've used the food metaphor on here before. It's Kraft mac and cheese. It's not good for you, but it's filling, and it makes you feel just kind of comfy. This is so crazy. And it's, when I say, and I'm going to say the word stupid, but I want to clarify here. It's not stupid in the sense that the movie's bad. It's not great. It's not like, in the top 100 movies of all time, number 25 is Tank Girl. No. But it is a fun kick back with your friends and watch movie. and it's crazy. But again, as I said before, in the opening stuff, I was saying everybody's having fun making this. I'm sure there were behind the scenes stories of, well, this went wrong and crap went to hell. But again, that's 101. But like, obviously, Malcolm McDowell's having fun. Ice-T looks like he's having fun. I'm assuming
Lori Petty looks like she's having the time of her life in this movie.
Oh yeah, especially the dance scene when they go to rescue the girl.
Oh yeah.
Like, you almost feel like Laura Petty went, okay, as crazy as this is, and I'm sure it was actually in the script because having read in preparation for this some stuff from the Tank Girl comic book, it's that amount of craziness because like half of it, for those of you who are comic book fans, I just want to take two. Tank Girl comic book fans, I want to reach out to you. A lot of what happens in the comic book, they answer in the movie by like what's happening in real life in the comic book is mirrored differently in her head.
Right.
So like, there's supposed to be, and apparently they weren't able to do it, and they thought that this would work better. That whole dance scene is supposed to be a huge fight scene. It's supposed to be them punching the crap out of everybody. But Tank Girl is so in her head and so, used to fighting that she's not seeing it as a fight. She's seeing it as this gigantic Broadway number. And it's like her way of disassociating from some of the terror and horrible stuff that is in the world that she lives in. So I wish they'd have more time to do that. But again, it's still one of those. This movie's memorable because you will never forget it.
I watched this with my daughter and my son. My daughter loved it, but my daughter is also leaning alt/emo/goth, /not, preppy. And she liked, like her favorite movie this year so far was I Saw the TV Glow. Like this was right in her wheelhouse. My son, who very much liked Alien 1979, so you are not allowed to make fun of him. He is a genius and a good boy. However, he thought he got like halfway through Tank Girl and was kind of, what the fuck am I watching? Like there are those of us who can kind of handle the surreal, the movie as acid trip. And then there are those that like their movies a little more concrete. My son tends to be the latter, not the former. My daughter tends to be more accepting of the former, not the latter.
Well, your daughter's the older one, right?
The old daughter's the older one, yes.
Well, again, very quickly, just kind of bouncing off what you said, I think there's a situation where since this movie came out in 1985, again, it's 10 years plus before I'm born. It's still one of those things like as a 90s kid, albeit late 90s, we still had that like, okay, you watched 80s movies, you watched Labyrinth, you watched Return to Oz, all that weird shit. We kind of got grandfathered in. For 2000s kids, it kind of got great grandfathered in, where it's like, okay, the movies are still kind of this crazy, but with your son being, I'm assuming, like a 2010s.
He's born 2014. He is currently 10 years old.
Okay, fantastic. That actually makes perfect sense because he's like, okay, the movies that came out in theaters when I was, in my formative years,
He's fucking 10. He's in his formative years.
Yes, but I'm fancy, so yeah. But
you know what? Keep going.
Drink. But it was like it's there's that madcapness that was the late 70s and early 80s that we've lost in filmmaking. And somebody who's not used to that, your daughter again got great grandfathered in, was like, okay, yeah, movies were still madcap like this. Your son's going, okay, I know the 80s had a lot of drugs, but shit.
Yeah.
Especially with the big change that happened in the early to mid 2000s, going from a lot of the more physical makeup and effects to things being a lot more digital and looking a lot nicer and stuff like that. I know for a lot of younger people, that can be a huge disjointed mess when people are looking at stuff from the 80s.
I know Mr. Radulich doesn't want to stay too long on one movie, but I do want to make a really quick joke about Tank Girl with, again, the kangaroo people don't look real. I think it's funny that all three of us, despite our dispersion in age, have now become the new bitchy people because we're like, you know what? Back in my day, they made things for real. And you never believed it was there, but you knew they were physically
Michael
there
Keaton's
on the
makeup
screen.
in Beetlejuice looks amazing. This is horseshit.
It's like, because I was CG and like everything being,
Mhm.
all computer. Like we look at that since we had to suspend disbelief and be like, okay, I know that's not tech. I know it's a puppet, but I'm suspending disbelief.
Mhm.
Now, all three of us are looking at movies going, that's a computer. That oh God, the camera guy just did this across the street. And that was his job for the day. And then they handed it to the animators who were like, okay, Optimus Prime is going to go swing down like that. And
So a couple of things I wanted to share before we move on. One, I enjoyed the movie. It's weird.
but it's fun weird.
That's why I bring up my kids a lot, because I can be like my daughter where I like the surreal. Again, I watch Cool World. Okay. I watched Monkey Bone. I watched Fritz the Cat. I watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And people are like, wait, what? Yeah,
was
it's
Who
wide
Framed
expanse
Roger Rabbit
there.
not hot enough for you? We give you
Sorry, we have a comment here. How do I shut off the dialogue print at the bottom of the screen? I cannot see the chick on the bottom of the screen. There should be a button if you mouse over the screen that says turn off closed caption there, friend. Anyway, comments. We appreciate you all. Mwah. Anyway, I like the surrealist nature of the movie. I don't always love like the post-apocalyptic stuff, especially now, because it feels a little overdone. It feels like, everybody's out in a fucking desert. Deadpool was just in a desert. Mad Max in a desert. Dorian Price in a desert. Everyone's in a desert. Bugs Bunny, first base. Catcher, first base. Bugs Bunny. But back in 1995, it wasn't quite, the setting du jour. So also, you brought up like everyone looks like they're having fun on set. Yeah, there are movies that are trying to bring you into a world that is obviously not real, but everyone's going with it. So, like an Avatar, they want you to feel like you've left your universe and have gone to a completely other one, and it's like an immersive thing. Then there's a movie that it's aware that it's a movie, and so everyone's having fun and they're sort of, acting like they're the Joker in the movie. Everyone's just big and loud, and they are very much aware they are entertaining people, and so which I kind of like the nature of that. I did want to read something from the wiki here that I thought was interesting. In the theme section of the Wikipedia page, and I want to get your reaction to this, Chae, and then Dorian. Writing in the 1997 book Trash Aesthetics, Popular Culture and Its Audience, sounds like a great book, by the way, Deborah Cartmel states that while the comic book showed Tank Girl to be unheroic or even an accidental anti-hero, the film sets her up with the classic Western generic emotional and moral justifications for her liberation and revenge on WNP, and she witnesses the slaughter of her boyfriend and her trusty steed. She also sees one of the commune's children being abducted and is herself captured and enslaved. Cartmel, who also says Tank Girl holds parallels with other contemporary post-feminist icons, as she displays dominant female sexuality and familiarity in knowing the coolness of outlawed modes of sexuality, such as masturbation, sadomasochism, and lesbianism. Your thoughts, if you have any. Chae?
Honestly, I think for its time, it was fine. I don't know all that much about the comic, and I don't know how Tank Girl behaved in the comic. But I think for the time that it came out, I think having an almost Deadpool-like heroine was definitely pushing a couple of boundaries. It wasn't pushing massively, but it was enough to make the show interesting. And to be completely honest, I don't think Tank Girl was really the focus of the film. She's who the film is about, but it wasn't really that much of a character piece about her.
Right.
She's our POV in a way, because she's
she's kind of just the POV. So her being kind of generically female hero-ish isn't really that big of a deal.
There's definitely, I think, in terms of, again, thematic aesthetic, there's the odes, notes to like punk rock, Riot Girl going on here. Like I can see this as sort of like a post-feminist piece. I can see that. I definitely see this as something. Again, I go back to my daughter, who tends to be very feminist, except when you ask her to pick up a heavy object, then she's not so much. Then she's a Disney princess. Me, I need a prince. But I can definitely see this as being something that, that a kid kind of, not feeling quite in tune with the rest of the world might gravitate towards, and feeling like, oh, look, this is empowering. This is a character who owns her sexuality, is brave in the face of danger, is, slightly crazy. Like this is a character that could speak to kind of an outsider kid. Dorian, go ahead, Chae.
It's very much an aesthetic film, and it's very much Vivienne Westwood in the late 80s leading into the 90s.
Yeah. I just want to know if you had any comments there, Dorian.
Yeah, no, that's actually what Chae just said is a perfect segue. I think for the time it was made in, and that's always something we have to remember, is like, this is made in 1985. So this 95. Is 95. Sorry, my bad. That's what I meant. But it's the 80s refusing to die.
Right.
Never. I live forever. I never die. I live to 1,000,000. But I think that, yeah, with what she said about the person who wrote the article, or wrote the book, said, yeah, she's right. It does kind of switch from the comic book where she kind of stumbles into situations and she's not always like this, like she was in the movie. However, in the movie, if they had done what the comic book was in 1995, it again, no producer would have cleared it, never would have worked. If they did it today, and like the 95 version had never existed, it'd have been directed by someone like Patty Jenkins, who did Wonder Woman. It had a much more serious take on it, which wouldn't be a bad thing necessarily. But overall, it is fantastic to have this hero who isn't necessarily a hero. It's just kind of, hey, some shit happened, and this has to be taken care of. And that's one of the things that I love about the movie, is that she's not like, because my father taught me that this is what is right and this is what is wrong, I will astride my tank, do good things. Like, no, you fucked with my people. Guess what? I'm coming for your ass.
So last little bit here, just some housekeeping. So the budget on this was $25 million. This bombed. This made a tidy $6 million. So did not find its audience in the cinema as such. However, if you look at the legacy of this, despite being a critical and commercial failure, Tank Girl is often said to have a cult following. Petty's version of Tank Girl remains a popular character at cosplay events. We don't have Alexis here tonight, who is our convention person, but I'm sure between the two of you, you've been to a con or two. You see a lot of Tank Girls?
Actually, yeah. Since I work a lot of the conventions, I mean, like I know Alexis with Honeysuckle Rose Creations is working them. I'm also working them, but I'm bouncing around like a freaking pinball, taking pictures and video. At every convention I've been at, I've seen at least one, if not more.
Yeah,
that makes that. Now that we're moving into, this thing being over almost, 30 years old. There's more and more as it reaches its 30th anniversary. Sorry, Chae, over to you.
To be completely honest, I don't think I've seen a lot of Tank Girls, but I also don't go to a lot of conventions. It's just not really my thing.
Okay. The music video for Avril Lavigne's 2013 song Rock and Roll paid homage to Tank Girl. Megan Carpentier credits Tank Girl as having a strong influence on the aesthetics of 2020 film Birds of Prey, and also speculated about its influence on films The Matrix Reloaded, Mad Max Fury Road, and the character of Hit Girl in Kick-Ass. During her interview included on the Blu-ray release of the film in 2013, Petty was asked why she thinks the film still resonates with fans and replied, "There's no formula as to why Tank Girl was so fabulous and why people love it so much. It was unique. It was new. It was fresh. It was way ahead of its time." That much I definitely agree with. I think I think now, not in theaters, but I think now if you put this thing on like Netflix or Hulu or something, it finds an audience and, you know, it becomes the talk of the town. It still makes no money in theaters though. It was way ahead of its time, and I'm happy that I got to do it, and I'll always have her. Luke Buckmaster from the BBC included the film in the 2015 list of 10 weirdest superhero films, asserting that at its best, director Rachel Talalay captures an ostentatious steampunk vibe that proves weirdly addictive. It was reported in 2019 that a reboot of the film was in early development with Margot Robbie. No! Margot Robbie is box office poison. Production company, Lucky Chap Entertainment, who optioned the rights from MGM. And production was, thank God, put on hold from COVID-19. Yeah, we don't need to do this again, people. Please, no. Also,
if they want to do another Tank Girl, cast the person who played one of the things that it inspired. You get Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah. I mean, just don't. If she wants to produce it, that's fine. I have nothing against Margot Robbie as a producer. Produce away. You know, did a great job with
the bad guy.
No, how about don't put Margot Robbie in the goddamn film? Sorry, Robert and I did an entire segment on how Margot Robbie has not by her name alone made a hit movie since I Tonya. So no, thank you. You know, when she wasn't part of an ensemble, I should say.
Well, Barbie wasn't bad.
that would be the only one. Yes.
We said I, Tonya. So again,
I, Tonya, Barbie. Nothing in between. All right. Everyone ready to move on? I assume you are. Let's do that. All right. So next movie we're going to talk about is Mystery Men. Mystery Men is a 1999 American superhero comedy film directed by Kinka Usher in his feature-length directorial debut. It was written by Neil Cuthbert, loosely based on Bob Burton's Flaming Carrot comics. So real quick, what are Flaming Carrots? That's an American superhero comic book created by Bob Burton, featuring the absurd, surreal adventures of the Flaming Carrot. The series first appeared in Visions #1, a magazine-sized comic book publication. Flaming Carrot chronicles the further adventures of the strangest man alive. Flaming Carrot is often noted for his distinctive exclamation, UT. Flaming Carrot adventures have been published in Aardvark, Vanaheim, Renegade Press, Dark Horse Comics, and Image Comics, where all the pouches are from. Among others, he has guest starred and made cameos in comics published by Fantagraphics, Mirage Studios, and Animaker Press, and others. So, I was starting to say, yeah, these characters in Mystery Men apparently made some appearance or others in Flaming Carrots, though they don't really like hyperlink to a specific one, so I couldn't tell you how close to the originals they are. It stars Ben Stiller, who was popular back in that period, Hank Azaria from The Simpsons, William H. Macy, Greg Kinnear, Claire Forlani, Kel Mitchell, Paul Rubens, Janine Garofalo when she was funny, Wes Studi, Jeffrey Rush, Lena Olin, Eddie Izzard, who, you know, if you've ever seen Dorian do his Eddie Izzard impression, it's quite funny, and Tom Waits, the aforementioned Tom Waits. The film details the story of a team of lesser superheroes with unimpressive powers who are required to save the day from a criminal genius when Champion City's resident superhero gets captured. Mystery Men generally received positive reviews from critics, but was a box office bomb, making a little over $33 million worldwide against a $68 million budget. All right, Chae, this was like the whole reason you're here tonight. So tell me about your love and affection and dedication and just everything for Mystery Men.
Yeah, so Mystery Men is a fucking core memory for me.
It's a little crystal ball, huh?
Yes, little crystal ball. Little bit of background. My dad is a musician, and he went around like county fairs and stuff like that when I was little. And we had a van where the band had all of their stuff, and there was a bed in the back and a little TV in the front. And when we were on summer vacation, we would take the van places. And that is where I first saw Mystery Men. Little tiny 12-inch screen in the back of a van going to like a cousin's house or something. And I thought it was so fucking hilarious. It is the dumbest shit ever.
Yeah.
It is a whole bunch of just absolute losers trying to save the day. and repeatedly failing until they finally succeed.
Failing upwards, as it were.
Yes, failing upwards.
I saw the movie, I think, when it came out. This was the period, the window of time where this particular group of comics were making movies and were popular, and they were right at the heart of mainstream pop culture. This was Janine Garofalo at the height of her powers. I believe this is plus or minus a year of The Truth About Cats and Dogs, which is probably like the highlight of her film career. This is Ben Stiller, I think, at the beginning of his like super run of stupid comedies that actually made money, because if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. And then, this is kind of a there's no slouches in this. I mean, William H. Macy, Greg Kinnear, these are, really talented people. Yeah, I'll tell you, I think one of the reasons why I went out of my way to go see this was because back in 1998, 99, somewhere in there, was the first time I had seen Eddie Izzard's Dressed to Kill. And I didn't know what I was watching when I watched it. I was at a friend's house. We were, eating pizza and smoking pot. And he's got, and he's flipping channels. And we see this, this comedian. And he was like, "Do you have a flag?" And I was like, "Hang on, I want to hear where he's going with this." So I
playing India for Britain. Yeah, claim as we live here.
Do you have a flag?
1 million of us. Do you have a flag?
No flag, no country. These are the rules that I've just made up.
No. Now backing up with this gun from the National Rifle Association.
Yes. So I went back and I watched the entire Dressed to Kill stand-up routine, and I've never laughed so hard. Eddie Izzard, to this day, nothing was as good as Dressed to Kill. Nothing he's done since. But I still she is actually going by Susie Eddie Izzard these days, just to be clear. Okay.
For any of the new fans of her that are coming in and maybe watching this, it's like it is Susie Eddie Izzard.
I am going to talk about her as I knew her contemporaneously in the late 90s, early 2000s. And at that time, she was just Eddie Izzard. However, you continue to seek out this person, look for Susie. Anyway, I was a huge fan, and I've watched Dressed to Kill like a zillion times. So because of Dressed to Kill, and I became a huge Eddie Izzard fan, I sought out anything at the time he was identifying as he. Anything he did. So I've watched both. I was that one person who watched both seasons of The Riches. And I made it a point to watch Mystery Men because he was in it. Otherwise, I would not have given a shit. And yeah, this is your assessment of the movie is dead on accurate, Chae. This is the dumbest shit ever. I mean, there are some great lines in here, and Janine Garofalo, I think, has the funniest line of the entire movie. She takes out Eddie Izzard with the bowling ball, who is her dad, and and then she's like, "All right, you got that out of your system? Good. I'm going back to grad school." To this day, that still makes me laugh. So your thoughts, or rather, your history with this movie, Dorian, Mystery Men.
I actually watched this movie as well with a whole bunch of backstage crew people. And I'd heard of it. For those of you who have seen the show before, you already know where I'm going very quickly. But I was raised very strict Southern Baptist by my legal guardians. This movie was, again, in that eternal void that was, it's the devil.
Wait, why is this one the devil?
Never really got an answer on that one because I was like,
Okay.
we watched those superhero films. Why would this one
enjoyable?
Hey. We will fight.
You crazy Christians, and you're not enjoying life.
But anyway, so I ended up watching it, and I watch it post me seeing Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
The first one, Curse of the Black Pearl.
Right.
So I'm like, dude, Jeffrey Rush, what up?
Right.
Like, obviously, I recognize William H. Macy and all the the people I knew from like the alternate life I had, where it's like, yes, I wear polos and pants that are up to here because that's what people do. And like the alternate life, where I was like, okay, I can take this all off. Jesus Christ, thank you. But so the line that sticks with me throughout this, I mean, this movie, yes, it's dumb, but it's much like Tank Girl. It's fun dumb.
It's the only one my son liked of the three of these. He thought Mystery Men was fantastic.
It's like sit back, enjoy it. It's fun, and it's off the beat, off the track from like the normal superhero movies that you would run into today, like any of the MCU or even the DC extended universe. If whichever you're a fan of, doesn't matter. The scene that lies with me and lived rent free in my head to this day is the guy's talking to Jeffrey Rush, and he's like, obviously Jeffrey Rush is the villain. This guy's talking, he's like, we are nemesis, and you see like the pain on Jeffrey Rush's face. Is like, nemesis. That is the plural of nemesis. Is nemesis. Many much moosin. Somebody who's watching, that's for you. Many much moosin. But yeah, this movie is when I see it on a streaming service that I have, and it's like it pops up like, hey, you watch this? Would you like this? Yeah, I definitely put it on. So again, since this was Chae's favorite, and again, gee, I wonder which of the three is my favorite. We'll get to that, but no, I would say, just to kind of round up my things, and just so Chae can talk more. Watch this movie; it's fun. Get some friends together and watch this.
Here's what happens in this movie. It's real quick. So we have I'll tell you, having just watched the 4th season of The Boys, I'm starting to wonder how much of this movie influenced the writers of the comic book and eventually the people who developed the television show. Because again, we have another sort of deconstruction of the superhero genre. So we have a city where Greg Kinnear is your big time superhero, but he's losing favor with the crowd. He's not, he is beaten. He is like Alexander the Great. He is laid up against a rock and looked around the world until there was nothing left to conquer. And so we have a insane criminal in Jeffrey Rush. And while no sane person would actually want to let him out of the asylum, Greg Kinnear's like, well, if I let him out and beat him again, that'll make me a favorite of the crowd again. So that's what we're going to do. And so he gets out, but, Jeffrey Rush betrays Greg Kinnear and he captures him, and so that the city is bereft of its main superhero, which leaves our band of misfits who are you have Hank Azaria, who is the Blue Raj. You have the Shoveler, played by William H. Macy, because he has a God-given gift and it's shoveling. And then you have, what the fuck is Ben Stiller's stupid name? You have Roy, or AKA Mr. Furious, and whose power is his rage enhances his strength and agility, except it never actually does. He apparently had a moment where he lifted a bus and decided, that's it, I'm the Hulk now. But, Roy's just an asshole. In any case, they struggle to save anybody at any time. But with Greg Kinnear at a commission, they need to go rescue him, and they figure, well, let's beef up our team with some more superheroes. So they go to recruit this one kid who is the Invisible Boy, but the Invisible Boy knows where the rest of the superheroes are, and so they have sort of a Deadpool 1-esque or a Deadpool 2-esque recruiting session where they have people come in and audition, and that is where Janine Garofalo shows up, whose father died, and she put his skull and his soul in the bowling ball, and she is now the bowler, and the ball, she throws it, and it knocks things over, and the father speaks to her through telepathy. It's silly, but it's funny.
Like you do.
Yeah, like you do. And we have Paul Rubens, who is Pee Wee Herman, but he's also the Spleen, and his amateur superhero whose flatulence makes others faint. Gross.
Rest in peace, Paul Rubens. We miss you.
So we have Tom Waits, who is Doc Heller. He's a mad scientist who makes weapons for the Mystery Men, and they have somebody who is coaching them. A mentor as such is played by Wes Studi, and he is the Sphinx. And the funniest thing the Sphinx does is, he's trying to give them advice, but everything he says is like contradictions and opposites and whatnot. And finally, Ben Stiller's just had enough of him. And he was like, I know exactly what you're gonna say. He's like, everything that is up must come down. Everything that is right must be left. He was like, that's it, right? That's what you're gonna say? And the Sphinx is like, damn it. So anyway, now that we have the team put together, they launch an assault on Jeffrey Rush's hideout, and they try to save Greg Kinnear, but he manages to blow himself up in the process. But they do, in fact, eventually beat Jeffrey Rush and save the day. And Ben Stiller gets the girl who is a waitress, and Janine Garofalo goes back to grad school. All right, Chae, tell me all about this movie, your favorite parts of it, what works, what doesn't work, etc.
So this is another one of those weird ones where the plot's not really all that fucking important.
Nope, that's why I don't read these anymore.
Yeah, it's another one of those clip show ones. A good chunk of my memory of it is like little bits and pieces. But I remember it had a really interesting aesthetic. It was a little bit Raimi-esque with also the late 90s going into the early 2000s superhero and almost like Jay and Silent Bob kind of aesthetic, which was really fun because it was a very strange mix of this is a realistic setting and we have really insane characters. And it was just most of what I remember is Paul Rubens farting.
Why do you love this movie so much, Chae? Why are you here? Farts.
And it
I'm supposed to be the kid of the group. What the hell?
And Dorian claims to be the kid of the group, but I can't fucking resist a good fart joke. And having a character whose entire fucking premise is that he is the fart joke just tickles me to no end.
I see that.
And it's another one of those that everybody on this film just had a shit ton of fun with it. It's Jeffrey Rush is fucking hamming it up, and Ben Stiller is way too dramatic for the situation.
Can I tell you, I've never liked Ben Stiller, and I absolutely hate him in this movie. And it's not his fault. He's doing his best. And I'm not saying you shouldn't like this movie or anything like that. Far from it. But like Ben Stiller, I think because I'm looking back on it with 2024 eyes, and I'm seeing that kind of guy, that guy who uses his anger and frustration as his that's his personality, is I'm angry, and by extension that's now my superpower, and my anger gives me super strength, except that it never does. He gets his ass beat through 90% of this movie, and it's just like I know that character, I know that person. That person's an asshole. But because of movie structure, script structure, we are told we must like this character. We are told this character is good. He's our lead hero. And it's like, no, nothing about you is good. Nothing. You're a douchebag.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's a good chunk of the entire movie. There is very little that is good about anybody in this movie. They're all assholes and frauds. And
I was gonna say, even like Janine Garofalo, gets minimally challenged. She's like, "Fuck this, I'm out of here," and has to be dragged back in.
Yeah, and I think honestly, that's a good chunk of the point of it. It's like everybody loves to dream that they're a superhero and that they've got something super special about them. But honestly, if any of us had anything that was even like shitty superpowers, we would not be fucking superheroes.
Yeah, it's a lot of what The Boys talks about. Like if you had superpowers, not every person would throw on glittery bedazzled spandex and go out there and fight crime and save cats and trees. A lot of us would find interesting ways to have sex. We'd rob banks. We would do all kinds of nefarious stuff.
Oh yeah, and the Boys has a very interesting, fairly serious take on it, and I think this is kind of just the other side of the coin. Like, if people did get superpowers, a whole bunch of them would get really shitty superpowers.
Yes.
And then get way too up their own asses about it.
Yes. Not everyone would be an Omega level X-Man. But I think that's kind of a brilliant point that, because right now, because again, it is 2024 after all, we're looking at The Boys as sort of the satire, the parody, the editorial on the superhero genre. And Mystery Men was doing the exact same thing in 1999, in the silliest way possible, and almost a Mel Brooks. Like, it's not quite as biting and as satirical as the best of Mel Brooks, but it's definitely in that style, in that vein of a Mel Brooks taking the piss out of a genre.
Oh yeah, definitely. And honestly, satire is about comic books, whether it's in movie form or comic book form, is not anything new. Because the first thing that comes to my mind when I think taking a look and satirizing comic books is Watchmen, which is very, very much like The Boys. It's a very serious take on it, and that whole, like, if superheroes existed, most of them probably wouldn't be good people.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I love what The Boys has done, and it's a good show. It just there's a really good long history of comic books making fun of themselves.
Absolutely. Those that are in the know that, sometimes you got to take the piss out of comic books. Dorian, your thoughts on Mystery Men and what we've been talking about so far?
Well, actually, I kind of wrapped it up in my last thing because I didn't realize we were going back to this. It is just a fun movie. Again, with everything you and Chae have said, I don't really think I can add anything more.
Okay.
Just say go see this movie, or like not go see, but like go to theaters right now
and ask them to play Mystery Men and see how long it takes for you to get trespassed.
Exactly. But no, it's a fun movie. It's smart while being dumb. So again, something to add to your list of watch this on a chill night.
If you watched season 1 of The Boys and went, I don't need to see this. This is a little much for me. I like the idea, but I don't know. Ant-Man blowing up someone's anus is not really my thing. The hero-gasm. I am a good Christian person. I don't need to see stuff like this. Watch Mystery Men. It's the same shit, but it isn't quite as X-rated.
And it won't take as much time out of your life.
No, it will not. All right, that brings us to our final film of the evening, and that is The Rocketeer. Decidedly a different aesthetic than either of these two movies. If this hadn't been directed by Joe Johnston, you would have assumed it was directed by Steven Spielberg. But the Rocketeer was, in fact, directed by Joe Johnston, and you might know him from the following movies: Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Jumanji, Jurassic Park 3, boo, boo, The Wolfman, starring Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins, Captain America, the
first Avenger.
Yep, Captain America and the First Avenger, and The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. He also worked a little bit on the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, the last decent Indiana Jones thing ever. And he's got some different credits, visual effects or art director for the following movies: Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Return of the Jedi. That was why this is reminding me of Spielberg. Temple of Doom. He was the ultralight sequence designer for Howard the Duck. Hot diggity. He's a second unit director.
We all start somewhere.
He is the second unit director for one of the greatest movies ever made, Batteries Not Included. He was an associate producer on Willow. Some other television that he's worked on in different positions: Battlestar Galactica, The Ewok Adventure, and The Ewoks Battle of Endor. And then it looks like he did a documentary called Light and Magic. So that's Joe Johnston. But what is The Rocketeer, you might be asking? It's a 1991 American superhero film from Walt Disney Pictures when they used to make movies. It was produced by Charles Gordon, Lawrence Gordon, and Lloyd Levin, directed by the aforementioned Joe Johnston, and it stars Billy Campbell, Jennifer Connelly, Alan Arkin, Timothy Dalton, Paul Sorvino, and Tiny Ron Taylor. It is based on the character of the same name, created by a comic book artist and writer Dan Stevens. I'm going to start with you first, Dorian. You say this is your favorite thing. Were you familiar at all with the comic books?
Yes, actually. I have a Rocketeer comic. The Rocketeer comics came out in the 80s. It was one of the ones that my legal guardian, we were at antique shops. I was allowed to get Batman and stuff like that, but nothing really from Marvel, because Marvel was, again, not necessarily the devil, but like too much. But
were your legal guardians aware that Superboy punched the universe? Because I think if they were, they would have changed their minds.
Yeah, and then I wouldn't have gotten to read Superman or Batman, so I'm glad they weren't aware.
Don't tell them about the crises. Don't tell them about the crises.
If they don't know won't hurt them, and thusly won't hurt me. That was dark, was it not? No. I remember reading this, and I'd seen the movie beforehand, because it was in that realm of Walt Disney when it was still Touchstone Pictures, kind of like, we don't know if this is gonna roll or not, so we're gonna see. Okay, we'll go over here.
Yeah, Walt Disney in its innocent period when it was making movies for families.
Right. But this movie I really, really enjoyed because one of my legal guardians was a airplane mechanic, so I spent a lot of my time on airstrips as well. So I got a lot of the avionics jokes in this that they make, and it was a fun. And again, I'm completely going to agree with you. If you didn't know it was Joe Johnston, you'd assume it was Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
it has that Spielberg feel to it, and not just because the guy's in tan pants and a leather jacket.
It is imbued with Americana and hope like no movie I've seen in the past 20 years.
And I feel like it just came out at the wrong time and didn't have the right marketing. I love this movie. I mean, thus, one behind me. There are lines in this movie I still use today, just in regular conversation. When something goes horrifically wrong, but there's nothing we can do about it, I will literally throw my hands up and go, well, that's the end of that. Which is a line from PV, who's the airplane mechanic who works for our lead. I love this movie. I will watch this movie 1,000 times, and I have watched it 1,000 times. It's part of this group of movies that no one remembers, which includes The Shadow, The Phantom, Dick Tracy, obviously The Rocketeer, Darkman a little bit as well, but Darkman was on the kind of darker side of that. And if you don't know about the Darkman series, check also the Radulich Network for the entire trilogy they did.
Yes, we did a Long Road to Ruin on Darkman a few years ago, mostly because I can't stop saying die, Darkman, die. Greatest name of a movie ever.
Right, and that's the third one. Yes. Which, very quickly on Darkman, if you're a Mummy fan with the Brendan Fraser ones, go back and watch Darkman, because the second two have Arnold Vosloo, who played the Mummy, as Darkman.
Incidentally, we also did a Long Road to Ruin on the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies.
Oh, fun. I'll have to watch that.
That's why I said call me first before you agree to do anything.
But no, with the Rocketeer, this was... I hate using the word wholesome, because these days that word is always used in this kind of like, well, it's safe. This is not safe. There is a semi kind of... Well, not semi. Sorry, take two. There is a whole Nazi background thing on this, but it does feel like an Indiana Jones movie. Like, if Harrison Ford had shown up in this movie to help Cliff Secord, who's our lead, fight the Nazis, none of us would have blinked.
Yeah. And in 1991, they wouldn't have had to puppeteer him around like Weekend at Bernie's.
Right. But
I'll never forgive the Dial of Destiny. Never.
Till death. But no, this is I don't understand why this movie didn't get as much love as it should have. Like, it's getting...
Oh, I have reasons.
I'm sure you do, because you always do, boss. And that's why you run the podcast, and I just come on as the little kid in the background and goes, "There's good in everything." Take a drink. But no, I love this movie. The look, the feel of it. Even before I'd already wanted to be a director by the time I saw this movie. But the look and feel of it, just it was awesome. And it was a superhero movie that felt like the old 78 Superman movies. There was hope. We had a hero that it wasn't about, I must avenge my parents, or Uncle Ben died, so I have to do this. It was, he wanted to do the right thing. The first time that he becomes the Rocketeer in the movie, it's because a friend of his is doing a clown thing in a plane, and there's an accident. The guy gets knocked out. We see the plane starting to fly out of the way, and Cliff puts this rocket pack they found on and the helmet they've created for it, and goes and saves him. And again, there's the music by James Horner's playing. It's like, and Cliff's standing there with the helmet on and the whole shebang, and he looks at Peavy and goes, "How do I look?" And Peavy looks at him and goes, "Like a hood ornament." So like normally where you have the hero puts on the suit for the first time, we're like, "Fuck yeah, it's gonna go kick ass." It's like, no, this is a normal guy who's doing something because his friend's in danger, and he now has the ability because of this rocket pack to help it. I don't want to take up too much time because other people need to talk to. I'll have other things to break in and say. Somebody else go.
Okay. How about you, Chae? Had you seen the Rocketeer at all? Are you familiar with the comic books?
I actually watched The Rocketeer yesterday.
Woohoo!
um,
Was that a first viewing or was that a rewatch?
yeah, that was the first viewing. I had actually not heard anything about The Rocketeer. Like, I've seen the helmet, but that's all I had before yesterday. And Dorian was like, "You gotta fucking watch this. It's a cute movie." And it was a very cute movie. Aesthetically, it was really polished. It's probably the technically best movie out of all three of them that we're reviewing today. I really
It is.
love
I think it's the most. How do I want to phrase this? I think it's the most professional of the three.
Yes,
Well,
it's definitely the
visually,
most professional out of them.
Yeah.
But aesthetically, it's very pretty. It's very 1930s futurism, and it's just fucking adorable.
So the basic premise of this thing is we have a down on his luck pilot. They're gonna lose. They're gonna lose the mortgage on the farm because they can't get the plane in the air, and it's a whole thing. And they're on their ass. And they're gonna need to figure out what to do in order to save themselves. We have Timothy Dalton, who is an actor. We have Jennifer Connelly, who was a girl, and we have a jetpack that is found that the mob is after, and Timothy Dalton wants. And then we're gonna find out later to Timothy Dalton's double agent working for the Nazis. But our hero finds this rocket pack. It's like, this is the answer to all my prayers. I'm going to use this thing and I'm going to entertain children and we're going to make lots of money. We're going to make all the money. But as it turns out, so during all of this, he's also having difficulties with his girlfriend, who is Jennifer Connelly, because she wants to be an actress, don't you understand? And he's like, yeah, you're more of walking scenery. You should come watch me fly. It's modern critics would just tear that to shreds. But basically, once he, as Dorian said, he saved somebody in the biplane during the air show. And that's what alerts all the bad guys that, hey, this asshole's got our thing. Go get him. And so now it's keep away from the bad guys. But the bad guys take women and children and everything that isn't nailed down in order to get him cornered. And so he finally does show up, and there's a bit, and Nazis show up, and everybody shows up, and the cavalry came, but then it was too late. And so we have a big fight on a Zeppelin. The Zeppelin eventually blows up. The actual Rocketeer rocket gets blowed up. Timothy Dalton gets blowed up, and they are saved, and all is well, and they love each other, and it's just amazing. So my son hated this movie. And this is why I don't think it would do well today. It takes. I mean, you want to fight a 10-year-old? Be my guest. But my son's scrappy. I brought him up on mild. Listen, I brought him up on MMA and mild racism. You want to fuck with my son? You're gonna get the horns, kid. Anyway.
Sounds like a game.
I just supplied my son was a bull. But no, his whole thing was, and I didn't blame him for thinking this. It's like this movie, we're 3 hours into the movie, and he finally gets the fucking backpack, and does something with it. I mean, not that I'm totally married to strict lineal script structure, but for God's sakes, 10 minutes if we get the kids to the mall already, 30 minutes and we're done with the first act. This thing takes forever to get started. there is a lot for a movie about the Rocketeer, and this he said something along these lines. I'm going to polish it up, but I think this is absolutely true. For a movie called The Rocketeer, there is very little rocketeering in this movie. There is a lot of character drama and building and world building, and a lot of Timothy Dalton, a lot of Jennifer Connelly, and a lot of running around. But maybe 2 or 3 scenes of him actually using the stupid thing, and the entire third act is he's not using it. He gets on the Zeppelin, and by that point, it's give me the rocket pack, and I'll give you the girl. No, give me the girl, and I'll give you the rocket pack. All right, here's the rocket pack, and we lose it. And then they get another plane. Howard Hughes gets another plane in the air, and he saves them. So. I'm not taking away your love of this movie. Love this movie. There are people in the comment, I'm gonna guess these are your friends, that are like, I love the Rocketeer. Love the Rocketeer. Love Nancy Reagan and apple pie and hope. Love it all. I'm not saying you shouldn't. But I am saying that if you're going to make a movie called Rocketeer, there better be some rocketeering going on. I mean, I think I think this is why Iron Man does what Rocketeer is trying to do a lot better. He's Iron Man in the first 20 to 30 minutes of that movie. And then after he actually builds the new suit, we get to see him do stuff with it for a good portion of the movie. And then the third act is him in the damn suit fighting the Ironmonger. I think Iron Man's a better Rocketeer in terms of like script structure.
No, I would agree, and I think we lost Chae.
Yeah, something's going on with her camera, as near as I can tell.
Okay, come back to us soon. No, I would definitely agree. This movie, yeah, there's for one, this movie is for Joe Johnston a audition piece in order to do Captain America: The First Avenger. Now, again,
which is a much better movie, by the way.
Yeah, and again, this movie crawls so Captain America: The First Avenger can run.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that, and again, this comes back to what I was talking about with like you said your son didn't like Tank Girl, which is fair. I mean, that's fine. I think I said it last night with the.
I'm not beating the 10-year-old up for not liking the surrealist weirdo Riot Girl movie.
No, I'm not either. I'm like, if it had been my son and he was like, yeah, dude, I don't like this, I'd be like, I feel you.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said.
I enjoy it, but it's not the end of the world. This movie was trying to be less of a superhero movie and more of a love letter to 1930s stuff.
Which is exactly why it would fail today.
I think I will disagree with you. I think with the right director, like again, if Joe Johnston came back and went, hey, let's do the Rocketeer again. I mean, it never would happen, but let's do the Rocketeer again, and let's try it this way, with the audience we have today. I think in that case, again, if Joe Johnston handled Rocketeer, like he handled Captain America: The First Avenger, people might like it. But again,
I'm going to rebut your point. I'm going to rebut your point in the following way. When I think about the modern Twitter audience, they tend to look back at anything earlier than maybe the 90s and go, that was the racist, ageist, anti-feminist period. And so there's this tendency from modern audiences, for the young kids, the woke crowd, to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So anything prior to 1990 is bad because some of it was actually bad. And so if you're doing an ode to you're doing an ode to the greatest generation, you're doing an ode to, the 1930s, that Americana, some collegey wise ass 20-year-old in 2024 looks at you and says, oh, when the racism was going on, Yep. and the women didn't have the right to vote, and and you couldn't get an abortion out of a candy machine. True, and so that's why I don't think it would work. Not that I wouldn't want it to, but I think it has a hard time finding an audience of young people.
My issue is just like, if you look at it from like, 1930s racism, it's like, then you're not watching the movie. Because again, several things that happen. Again, when Cliff in the big dog that is the cafe, I'm not going to explain what that is. You have to go and watch the movie. That's right, audience. I'm fucking with you. Anyway, but like Cliff gets mad at, like Jennifer Connelly's like, you said there were a few bumps on the landing. We thought Cliffy's number was up. And he spats back at her. It's like, well, everyone knew what happened because they were at the airfield. And she gets up and leaves. And
no, that's where they had the conversation. I was like, I was at a gig. I'm trying to be an actress. And he was like, you're moving scenery. Shut up. Make me a sandwich.
Yeah, it's like, that great movie. You had 3 seconds of dialogue. It was great.
Instead of going holding, like you're in the background holding grapes, and she's just like, there are no small parts in Hollywood, you dick, and runs away.
He walks out, and then, but again, with the anti-feminism argument, I would bring in for number one, the one who runs the cafe throws the rag down, goes, well, go after her, you dope.
Sure.
But there's also the whole and again, poor Jennifer Connelly. In those eras, what is it with every older sexy man trying to get into her panties and get her to dance?
Well, Jennifer Connelly is a pretty girl,
I mean, we got Labyrinth with David Bowie, and then we got this movie with Timothy Dalton. I mean, what can you do?
Listen, and then she's going to be in Ang Lee's Hulk, where she gets to stare blankly into the middle distance for 2 hours.
And I think she got screwed on that one. But again, with this movie, she has the moment where it's like she figures everything out, and she like, can you help me unzip? And Timothy Dalton's being all seducey on her, and she cracks him over the head. And again, she gets a full shot of her face. Like, I finally got to play a scene with Neville Sinclair, and like you see the like kind of angry zip up of her dress. I'm like, yes, you. But again, there is the Americana of it too, and I love the scene at the end when Howard Hughes, which we haven't actually talked about the fact that Howard Hughes is in this movie. We'll get that in just a second. When he brings in the plane for Cliff at the end, and it's like, he goes, let me ask you one thing. How did it feel with that thing on your back, flying like a bat out of hell? Well, the closest I'll ever get to heaven. And then he turns, and we get, the 30s, 40s thing of, her being Jennifer Connelly being all cute next to the plane. And he's like, well, maybe not. And it's a really cute moment that doesn't put her in the whole, like, go make me a sandwich shit.
So there's another part of this movie that I have to laugh at, and I'm gonna, just so we don't lose Chae, and Chae has to like now watch us talk for an hour. Chae, let me tell you another stupid thing about this movie. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The big reveal, the big aha moment, the denouement. Timothy Dalton, and they're talking about what is the implication of this rocket pack, and I can't remember exactly how it goes in the movie, but there's a cut to scene of basically the implication is the entire Nazi army would have these things strapped to their back, and they would fly over the entire Atlantic Ocean and land in the continental United States as an invading army. And the whole time I'm watching that going, so artillery fire doesn't exist in this world? With the, we see an entire invading army airborne, and suddenly we have no defenses in the United States. Get the fuck out of here. Like, how are they sending them over? And are they wearing Iron Man suits? Are they wearing suits of armor? Are they wearing bullet deflecting vests? What are we doing here?
That was the propaganda that was actually coming out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually matched it very close to. I'm sorry, Chae, I'm not trying to walk over your time to talk, but I just I do have to disagree in the sense that
that's fine. It's also absurd.
And so was the shit that was coming out at the time that the movie set. It's like, really? That's how it's going to happen?
Sure.
Like, audience, if you get a chance, watch World War II propaganda.
I would have more believed we were going to have a land invasion of fucking Tinkerbells. They at least had magic.
Chae, over to you.
I mean, yeah, it was absurd, but honestly, it's a kid's film. It's an absolute fantasy. Like, it's what my grandparents would have thought that they were going to be when they were playing superheroes, and
Right.
it just, and yeah, it's silly, but I mean, that's what a little kid would think of when they're thinking, oh, people with rocket packs on the Nazi side.
Mhm. I think I'm gonna keep talking to you because your Dorian seems to have run off on us. I think my son's struggle, my struggle is like it's not that I think The Rocketeer is a bad movie. It's not. It's a perfectly lovely movie. It's fairly well crafted. It's got some pacing issues, I think, but for the most part, I think it's a solid picture. I think my problem with The Rocketeer in general is I don't even know how I want to phrase this. Dorian, I catch you as you're drinking. I know you've got some more stuff you were wanting to say about The Rocketeer, so just go ahead and do it while I kind of gather my thoughts.
No, I agree that there's a fantasy thing to it, but it was the fantasy that historically was a possibility, that the people thought were a possibility. There were things being worked on that this could happen. And there's a whole spy element to the movie of this rocket pack being created. The Howard Hughes thing. For any history and or avionic buffs out there, there's a really hilarious scene when Cliff Secord is running from Howard Hughes's. We have an actor playing Howard Hughes. It was a guy from Lost, but he's running from Howard Hughes's office and he jumps out the window and he grabs onto this model of a plane, which would become the Lockheed bomber, and he zip lines out the hangar. And
I laughed my ass off at that scene.
The plane, like, he jumps off and runs off, and the model keeps flying, and it cuts into Howard Hughes, and he goes, "The son of a bitch will fly," which was like
my son and I were joking around, like having to explain that to your boss later. And so you see, boss, he grabbed a glider and flew out the window. Like, did anyone shoot him? Why didn't you stop him? Shoot the line, do something. Like,
because Howard Hughes says no guns. He pushes the guy's hand down, says no guns.
I remember that what I was starting to say now.
Cool.
By 1991, we've had a couple of Batman movies. We've had a couple of Superman movies. We've had, I think by this point, we've got a handful of superheroes. Yeah, we've got we've got Indiana Jones movies. We've got Star Trek. We've got Star Wars. We have a lot. And we have stuff that looks like the future. Far future. By this point. And I almost think The Rocketeer is too quaint by half. I think when you've gotten a steady diet of Star Trek, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, superheroes, etc., and then you're like, all right, and now here's a guy with a jetpack, you kind of have my son's reaction of, is that all? Is this it? Like the other guy's throwing ninja stars and jumping out of alleys yelling, "I'm Batman." Like, what does he do? And I think that's the last thing I'm going to say about the movie, and I'll give you guys like the final word. I think in a bubble, isolated from everything else, The Rocketeer is a lovely, quaint movie. In 1991, by comparison to everything that had come out in the past decade, I don't think it's enough. I think it's too small. I think it's too quaint. And I think it's a love letter to a period that a lot of people wouldn't find. I mean, not everyone, but don't see the value in. And so this feels like Joe Johnston's sort of passion project. But I'm not entirely sure there's and again, the thing bombed. A big enough audience to support someone sort of niche passion project. I'm going to go to Chae first for her thoughts on that and final word, and then you, Dorian, come back clean up.
Honestly, I think it was a cute movie. I think it was a lovely little letter to old comic books. I don't really have much to say past that. It's okay. Very cute. It's definitely something that I would probably show to my kids if I had any.
You should absolutely listen. I made it a point to watch it with my kids. So it's just because I have criticisms of, hey, Chris Bailey and everybody else, just because I criticize something doesn't mean I think you shouldn't watch it. No, you should absolutely should. There's value in here, but this, what are we going to talk? We can't do an hour of it's good, it's fine. What are we doing here? So yes, I have to find things to talk about. Things to talk about, Dorian. Your final words here on the Rocketeer.
I think this movie, and again, I know I say this on pretty much every podcast I'm on. It's something that it is definitely something to watch. It's a different superhero film, of somebody who just kind of stumbles into that power. It's different than Iron Man, where it's like you have a somebody who's up their own ass already and has to learn to be a better person through what they put on and such like that. However, what I will say is that I think this movie was made at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at.
1989 was our last Indiana Jones film, theatrically released, that being Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So 1991, we're still kind of like, dude, we got Indiana Jones. We got all this cool, 1930s, stuff like that. I think if they had made this movie today, like it didn't exist before, it existed now. Like, Joe Johnson was like, hey, I've done Captain America. I got him off the ground. Cool, bitching. I want to do this. I think the movie would be accepted a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I think there'd be criticism of, oh, well, it's too happy. Well, yeah, you know what? Not everything has to be so fucking sad the entire time. If you want that, then we're going to tie you up, put you in a room, and play Les Mis on repeat 24 hours a day until you die.
2, 4, 6, 1. I stole a loaf of bread.
Do you hear the people sing?
Master of the house. Sorry, go on.
Next up, everyone, Les Mis.
And your next triple feature, Les Mis, Cats, and no, go on.
Let's do it. I'll be on that one. I got words, but no. This movie has some. Excuse me. Just from top to bottom. It's not fantastic by any means. It's not 1989 Batman. It's not 1978 Superman. Because in a way, it's not a superhero film. It's a comic book film, but it's not a superhero film. It's about what a single person can do, finding something, and then finding a way to actually do something good with it, even if it's in a small way. He doesn't fight crime. He saves his friend, and then, the Rocket Pack's known, and now we have this, spy thriller that takes over. But the character of Cliff Secord is a good person. He's very flawed. He's an idiot, but he understands he's an idiot. And that's what's great about him. Jennifer Connelly's character is a fantastic girlfriend who also understands that, you know what? Yeah, I'm not perfect either. Timothy Dalton plays a fantastic villain. Kind of making fun of Errol Flynn and the fact that he was a Nazi sympathizer and may have been a Nazi spy. It's a movie to watch. It's not going to probably be in your top 10, but it's a movie that you can always go back to, and it feels good. All
right. Well, folks, that is our triple feature on three comic book adaptations: Tank Girl, Mystery Men, and Rocketeer. Sorry, Evan Bevan couldn't be here tonight. This was sort of our idea to do this, but we'll have Evan Bevan on soon to do another comic strip, I think. I'm very appreciative of Dorian and Chae stepping into the breach here and talking about this, and I thought that we had a lovely, lovely show. So thank you guys.
Always.
Last night, I said the Acolyte felt like a internal debate between organized religion and spirituality, and then got yelled at for 20 minutes. We also may have talked about the Acolyte. It was Alexis, Andrew Graham, David Wright, Dorian, and myself over 2 hours talking about that stupid show. So check that out. It's actually a rather fun review. If you've ever heard Alexis host a TV party and you've often thought, wouldn't it be great if 4 guys wouldn't let her talk? That's the show for you. See Alexis be mansplained for 2 hours. It's fantastic. Other things that are fantastic. We on Monday Let's see. What did we do Monday? This is so long ago. Yes. Myself, Jason Teasley, the Protocol Son, and Robert Winfrey reviewed Borderlands. If you're interested in the review, please check it out. We would certainly appreciate that. If you would just just tell me if it's good. It's not. But the review was fun.
Why won't you love me?
So that was this week. Next week, I will be in a different house, but also I will be doing podcasts. We will be doing Alien Romulus. It'll be myself, once again, Dorian Price, his friend Matt Kettner, and of course, the one and only Robert Winfrey. Alien Romulus getting good reviews so far, so hopefully we'll enjoy that and have a nice conversation about it. Alexis Hana is threatening to do a review of Batman Cape Crusader. If Dorian, you're going to be on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're threatening to do the whole thing as Kevin Conroy against our better judgment?
I think it's very well within your judgment.
Ugh.
I am vengeance. I am the knight. I am Batman.
Wait, how do you fucking tolerate him?
I love every minute of this shit, man.
Oh my god. You can have him. A week from tonight is the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox. I made the mistake of letting Robert Cooper pick this album, so he picked some French doom death metal hot nonsense. Alceste, La Chance de l'Aurore. So I don't even know what the hell that is.
God
Tell you what.
you.
Exactly. Give me some Slipknot, for God's sake. This is America. But that's what we're going to be doing on the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox. Chae, show us where you're pissed from.
I am Chae Tate. I am the one-man business of Tate FX, and I generally work with Frikey Pictures, but I do FX makeup, I do beauty makeup, I also do props and costumes.
Whoever Onyx Cat is that I call being on a Slipknot chat. Fine, sure. Next Slipknot album we review, I'll be sure to call on you, Onyx Cat. I will send the Onyx Cat signal into the sky.
No problem, Michaela. We got it on lock. That's Michaela, by the way, Mark. We've talked about her before.
It says Onyx Cat there, and I'm an old man, and that's what it says. God damn it. It's America. She wants to be known as Michaela. She puts her fucking name in there as Michaela, trying to tell me what's what. The 1930s.
When she gets on the show, it's like that's Michaela or like whatever her thing. It's like, no, it's Onyx Cat. Motherfucker.
You'll be Onyx Cat until I die. Should be very soon. All right, Mr. Director, sir.
Sorry. I'm Dorian Price from Frankie Pictures. I know it says warm body, but sorry, that just really got me. As anyone who's watched this show before knows, if you need it photographed, you need it filmed, need it recorded, which I know sounds like filmed, but there are actually two different things. Give us hit us up at Frikey Pictures on Instagram. We want to make your dream a reality. And we have I'll be out of town. Obviously, I'll be on the shows this coming week, but then I'll be out of town with Elton Dan and the Rocket Band.
Oh, and is that like an Elton John cover band?
They are one of the most award-winning ones in the country. They'll be in South Dakota doing a show. And it's a fantastic band. So if you're a fan, you're in South Dakota, check the show out. If you're near South Dakota, check the show out. With Sir Elton John not doing shows anymore after his retirement, this has the same energy and excitement that you would get out of an Elton John show. So
I didn't know South Dakota allowed Elton Johns.
Well, we'll find out when we get there. if you just see visuals of me like running with my camera and it looks like Blair Witch Project out of South Dakota.
What kind of music you boys play? Both kinds, Elton and Johns.
But anyways, yes, that's us at Frikey Pictures. Again, it's always great to be on the Radulich Network, and thank you, Mr. Radulich, for allowing me to come back. As always, it's always a lot of fun. I love conversating with you.
I enjoy talking to you guys too. All right, folks, thank you for joining us here on Triple Feature. She's Chae, that's Dorian, and I'm moving. Be well, be safe, and behave.